If I could eat this every day, I absolutely would. Just so tender. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Gerardo Grills. My name is Gerardo. Today I'm going to be smoking a picanha, but I'm not going to be cutting the picanha into steaks like I've done in the past, and I'm also not going to be skewering them like you would in a more traditional way. I'm going to keep the picanha whole, and I'm going to show you how to get the most tender bites out of that picanha, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. We're going to be using the Bradley P10 smoker you see right behind me here, using some mesquite wood to add that smoke flavor. We're going to smoke it for a little bit, and then we're actually going to sear it over some hot charcoal. That's going to give us a nice, beautiful crust that we want, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Are you ready to get going? Let's go. All right, so here we go. Here we've got ourselves about a 2 pound or 1 kilo picanha, and as you know, a nice little triangular shape to it. What we're gonna do is we're not gonna really do a whole heck of a lot in terms of seasoning to it. We're just gonna use salt and pepper. Traditionally, you probably would only use salt on this. Flake salt if you've got it. I've got some rock salt that I'm gonna be using. And that's pretty much it. So you've got your meat side, you've got your fat cap side. You can see here, unfortunately, my butcher went a little aggressive on the fat cap. We lost a little bit there, but that's okay. We still got lots of flavor over on this side here, and that's still going to be out fantastic. Now the key here is going to be that we're going to be seasoning this and smoking it whole like this. We're going to smoke it till about maybe 15 to 20 degrees before we get to the internal temperature that we want. In my case, we like our meat here around medium rare, so we're going to be cooking it to about 115 degrees internal. And then once I get there, I'm going to pull it and let it rest. And while it's resting, I'm going to heat up some coals, and then I'm going to sear it on that. So that's going to give us a nice, beautiful crust all the way around. So that's pretty much all we're going to do. It's a super simple cook, and it's so delicious. All right, so let's get going here. So I've got here some rock salt. I'm just gonna deliberately season this kind of all over. And I'm gonna do this about half an hour prior to it going into the smoker. I want some of this meat or the salt to get into the meat and kind of release some of those juices from inside. It's gonna be awesome. If you have time to do it, I mean, I would recommend you do it for maybe a couple hours ahead of time. And this is not necessary though. In this case, I'm just going to do 20 minutes just while the Bradley heats up. All right, so that's it for the salt, and then I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of pepper. Now this is less traditional to add some pepper to it, and I understand that. It's just I really like the pepper on beef, and I think it's going to be really good. So we're going to add just a nice little layer of it over top. And that's pretty much it. We're not going to forget about the fat cap too. I think, you know, I eat the fat cap, so I want some of that flavor, to be honest. So I'm just going to kind of dab around to pick up some of that salt and that pepper that fell on my board underneath here. Just going to pick it up. And that way, you know, it's not going to be crazy, but it's got some flavor on there as well, right? And that's it. No, easiest prep ever. Super simple, salt and pepper. I mean, of course, you can use whatever kind of rubs you like if you have something that you like on beef the most. Show you when we put this in the smoker. All right, so it's been about 20 minutes or so. I've got my Bradley's up to temperature, and now we're smoking here. I'm going to use the bottom rack, and we're going to go ahead and put that in there. We've got it centered here. You want to have it in the center of the rack so that it cooks evenly all the way throughout. We've got our thermometer to let us know once the temperature hits to 115 degrees internal. That's when I'm going to take this out and let it rest for a bit. So once it gets there, I anticipate this will be about an hour or so, an hour, maybe an hour 15, because this is about a 2 pound roast. Once we get there, I'll show you how we sear it. We'll let it rest, and then we'll sear it from there. All right, so my alarm's gone off here, and my temperature is now at 115 degrees. So it's time to pull. You can see the color looks pretty good. I see smoke still rolling a little bit, but it looks pretty good. Ooh, that's gonna be good. We're gonna let it rest for a good 15 minutes, and then it's dripping a little bit, so I'm gonna wait a little sec. We're going to take it out of here, let it rest for 15 to 20 minutes just while the coals get nice and hot, and then we're going to sear it off. I'll show you when we do that. All right, here we go. So it's been about 25 minutes or so. You can see my coals are nice and roaring hot, about 600 degrees in there. Now we're just gonna sear this off. Be really careful because there's gonna be lots of fat that drips down to the coals, so you might get some flames. Get that. Then we're gonna sear for about 2 minutes, and we're gonna try to sear each side here, including the fat cap, to kind of give it a little bit of a crisp. There we go, that's really all we're looking for. You can see all that awesome sizzle, just perfect. So I'm gonna set this down on my rack, and we're gonna let that rest for 15 minutes at least, and then we're gonna give it a slice and taste. All right, so here we go. So now you can see here we've got a wonderful sear on this roast. On the fat cap side, you've got that perfect crust, and then on the non-fat cap side, you've got this wonderful color, and also it's built up this nice little crust. So now let's get to slicing this beauty. So traditionally you would carve any roast against the grain so that, you know, your guests are getting a super tender bite. When it comes to picanha, and the research that I've done here is that you don't really worry about which way the grain runs. You really want to slice along the length of it, like you see here. So we're going to be slicing the whole from the base of the roast to the tip of it, and the thought is that a lot of folks believe that the tip of the roast is actually the most tender part of this roast. So when you slice it the lengthwise, regardless of which way the grain is going, you're getting pieces of the most tender piece of the meat, and then you're also getting some of the meat that is not as tender, but in my opinion still just as delicious. So now that we know that, that's how we're going to slice this. So let's get to slicing. Alright, so like I said, so we're gonna go from the base to the tip and just slice all the way across. So the grain on this one actually runs kind of diagonally a little bit, so we're almost still getting some of it that is across the grain, but you know, the key here is that we're really getting a piece of the entire roast in every slice. I know it's a little bit tough to see here with the daylight because the color of the meat kind of goes off a little bit, but this is a perfect medium rare roast and my mouth is watering. But check this out. You can see, hopefully the camera can capture this. Nice medium rare. You can see all those juices flowing out. It's absolutely fantastic. This is going to be so good and I really can't wait to taste it. So let's get to doing that. Well, all right, here we go. So this has all been rested properly and I can see it's just super juicy. Just gonna cut a piece of this. Hopefully the camera can capture as a perfect medium rare. I know it's a little difficult here in the sun or when there's quite a bit of sunlight. It's hard to tell, or daylight anyway, but that's how it tastes. Absolutely perfect. The mesquite smoke in it is so delicious, and we didn't really season it with much else than salt and pepper, so you get a lot of that beefy flavor from the picanha itself, which is absolutely so delicious. And that sear, you know, we seared it at the end there. It's a reverse sear roast essentially, so we smoked it for a little bit and then we seared it. We give it a hard sear at the end with some hot coals. You get so much of that crust on the outside. If I could eat this every day, I absolutely would. Just so tender. Out of bounds good. Every bite that you get is super tender. You know, the way we sliced it, I mean, I don't know if it made a huge difference or not. Maybe it's just this type of cut. You know, we've always been taught you slice against the grain because you want that bite to be, that last bite to be as tender as possible. We didn't worry about the grain on this one. We just went with the size of the roast. We went lengthwise on the roast, and it is just fantastic. Well, that's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. If you want to see some more, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss out on any content. If you want to see more of me, head on over to my channel. I'm at youtube.com/GrodGrills. Until next time, I'll catch you on the next Gerard Grills. Get some more of this.